Good afternoon, Professor Al-Husban and the whole class. So today I'm going to present the final project of this semester. So I have selected a paper presentation. Today I will be presenting a topic called an introduction to SOAP and its security issues. So I have divided this presentation into a few parts. I will start discussing about the abstract a bit, then introduction. After that, I will be discussing about the background information, where I will share a little overview of SOAP and a bit history about that protocol. After that, I will be discussing some aspects of the communication and security issues of SOAP. And while I will be discussing security issues, there are some security vulnerabilities. Those will be coming in this discussion, and I will try to provide some solutions. Those are given by experts to solve those security issues while we're exchanging the SOAP messages, and I will conclude this presentation. So I'm directly presenting from my paper. This is the paper I have prepared for submission. So we all know the web services are becoming very popular nowadays, day by day. People are using those more, and the service providers are trying to improve their services as much as possible. We are mostly dependable on some of the web services like Amazon and online ticket bookings and some other important services. So we like to take those services while we're at home. So W3C World Wide Web Consortium is the standard. Those are working behind this, and WSDL, UTTI, and SOAP are the three main players of this W3C standard. So today I will be discussing about the SOAP protocol, which is Simple Object Access Protocol. So SOAP uses XML for its message formatting, and it transfers the data over internet over the HTTP protocol mostly, and sometimes it transfers the data over SMTP protocol. SOAP is platform independent. This is one of the advantages, that it can perform regardless of which operating system you are using or which environment you are in. You will be able to transmit or transfer messages within devices without considering the platform you are using. SOAP provided two types of message representation. Those are RPC, which is remote procedural call, and the other is document style call. So in RPC, you are actually executing of a procedure in another remote address, and the document style you allows message to contain arbitrary data elements. So what is the history of SOAP? How the SOAP has introduced first? So in June 1998, it was a part of Frontier 5.1 project. SOAP was first introduced designed for Microsoft, and as an XML RPC. Then in 1999, the first specification of SOAP was introduced, and it was submitted to Internet Engineering Task Force. But unfortunately, it could not reach the RFC status, thus it wasn't considered as a web standard. After that, they have released SOAP version 1.1. Still, it could not reach the W3C recommendation, and it wasn't also able to consider it as a web standard. Later, they have made some more improvements, and finally in 2003, the SOAP version 1.2 was released, and it was able to reach RFC standard, RFC status. Then it was able to implement it as a web standard. After that, the name actually the acronym was denied of SOAP because SOAP is simple object access protocol, but after implementing SOAP version 1.2, it wasn't a simple protocol anymore. It got more complex functionalities and it was blended with WSDL, XSD, and UDDI. So the pattern of SOAP or the intention of SOAP has completely changed over time after being first introduced. So what is the SOAP communication type? How messages are communicated in SOAP? So SOAP structure has, SOAP message has actually a structure, simple structure. It has an envelope, and inside the envelope, SOAP message has a body and a header. So header contains all the informations those the receiver will need to exchange the SOAP messages, and within the body, it has the SOAP contents. So we can see SOAP envelope in XML format, and then header and the SOAP body. After that, we will see an example of SOAP messages that is being exchanged. So it was a message for a travel service. People can check in for the flight here. So we can see a passenger named Joe Smith. So if he has got the credential to check in, he will be able to check in from this. The post method is actually always we use HTTP post to fill up the forms, and SOAP action actually provides the action header which tells where is this form for. So this form will be used for check-in. So after that, SOAP envelope in XML, then SOAP body element, from where we see that e-ticket booking is possible, and a passenger, Joe Smith, can book this e-ticket. And there is flight info as well. From here, passenger can see the airline name, flight number, departure date, departure gate, and any information that is related. So we have seen that the SOAP message exchanging is pretty straightforward. It uses just XML and HTTP. But what if some attacks those SOAP messages for being transmitted to the actual receiver, or try to fabricate those messages? What will happen when those messages are falsified, or some SQL injection is put inside those messages? What will happen to those messages if it doesn't reach to the receiver, or the credentials, important sensitive informations are stolen? So here comes the web security, which is a major concern these days for many web applications. So SOAP is not out of that. So we know the SOAP uses HTTP protocol, which provides some basic security services. But before that, I will be discussing a little bit about what type of possible attacks those are happening nowadays. So SQL injection, cross-site scripting, which we call XSS sniffing, and denial of service attacks, and some other attacks named SOAP action spoofing, which is actually changes the action header, addressing spoofing, which changes the address of the messages, and message alteration act, which actually modify the original content of the message. And we can see some more attacks those can take place, loss of confidentiality. So it will be the information of the sender or receiver will be revealed to an unauthorized person. And principal spoofing, it changes the principle of the whole message. Forced claims and falsified messages, they will provide unnecessary information to the receiver, which doesn't mean anything, or maybe it will be included virus inside those messages, which are actually intentionally sent to the receiver. How those all attacks can be prevented? So a framework has been introduced. The framework is called Web Service Secured Messaging Framework, so which is introduced, where I will be discussing a little bit about the way of providing security to the SOAP messages, so that they cannot cannot go to unauthorized unknown person, or they cannot be falsified, they cannot be detected. So what is this WSSM framework? So here we can see that there's a dynamic composer on the middleware side, on the user side, and there is another server side. So when the dynamic composer here will receive the user requirement, after that the message will go through the security gateway, and the dynamic composer keeps a copy of that message. Then it will be divided into several APIs, and this secured SOAP message will reach to the security gateway of the domain server side through the internet. So when the server receives those messages, it will send the request back through security gateway of the server. It will again divide into multiple APIs and send to the security gateway of the middleware of the sender side. Then the dynamic composer receives those messages. In some places, if this message is being tried to falsify or attacked by some attackers, those time there is a threshold there is a threshold defined that how many times the message will be sent from the server side to secure side. So if if there is any attack, then the server sends a fault information that something is wrong and sends a copy of the original message again. So when the security attack is being processed multiple times, that time there is a threshold fixed. If the message was sent several times, there will be high overrate, so which will reduce the performance significantly. So the threshold will tell that how many times server will send this message. If the threshold is crossed, that time the dynamic composer of the middleware will choose another path to send the same message to another side of the server. So this is the basic security protocols of WSSM framework. So there is an algorithm how this works. So you can see that the input will be security gateway input SOAP messages and response SOAP messages, and output is output SOAP messages. So number of resends now 0. So endpoint reference actually denotes the security gateway will receive the message. So output SOAP message actually again get the IP address of the sender, endpoint reference, get path, security gateway, which path the message will be sent, and response SOAP message, how many times the message will be sent. So while response SOAP message and SOAP fault equal true and number of resend will be less than threshold, that time, which I have already described, number of resends will be number of resends plus 1, again send the message. When it crosses threshold, doesn't send the message, end the while loop and return. So this is the security protocols. And after that, when I was analyzing the result was analyzed, that time it was seen that the SOAP message was checked with the WSIBP, which is actually interoperability test, this test will denote you whether your sending message or security system is interoperable or no. So we can see from this table after that compliance test that the WSSM is interoperable because it passed the interoperability test. And after that, we have tried another performance test where many requests in a banking system was sent, and the throughput was measured when it was without security and when with the security. So we can see that when it was without security, the throughput was per 25 requests, throughput was 6. And when with security, it was just above 3. Per 200 requests, it was also same. It was around 3, and for when security API was installed, that time it was around only 2. So after that, with security APIs, when attack was in place, that time we see that the performance was significantly decreased. For 25 messages sent per second, the throughput was just above 2.5 without security installed, and with security installed, the throughput was just above 1. So we can see that the performance actually degrades significantly when there is any security module installed in the SOAP message system. So to conclude, we can say that the transmitting of SOAP messages are pretty straightforward, and it is supportive. It uses the most advanced technologies of XML and HTTP, which are the current advanced technologies. So transmitting the SOAP message is pretty straightforward and convenient. It doesn't have any problem, but when there is a problem when it comes to the security issues. So to conclude, we'll say that the more you wanna expect from the SOAP message, the more secured it needs to be for attract the trust of the people who are using the service of the service providers. So I think more studies will be conducted in recent future to deal with the security issues of SOAP messages, and it will be more advanced in near future, and the security will be improved as well without decreasing the performance. So thank you, the class. Thank you, ma'am.